Hey everyone, got an exciting video for today. Today will be the start of my PGM2 videos, which I'm going to do. I wanted to do an introduction video on them first, just to go through a couple of things. Most people that buy a PGM2 will probably already have a PGM1. I've not really come across a lot of people who start their PGM journey with a PGM2 to start with, but it does happen. But most people will probably have a PGM1, and they're looking for the next lot, which is obviously the PGM2. There is a PGM3, but it only had one game released for it. The PGM2 didn't have that many either. There's only like a handful, like around 5 or 6 games as well. But they are good games. But the later 2 or 3 are hard to get. I want to get them, obviously, to complete my collection, but most of any of that stuff's got to wait for next year. So, yeah, next year, 2022, will be PGM2 year. I've got some things happening. I've got... the big thing at the moment that's stopping me is just money-wise, basically. You know, it's hard to try and afford all these things and, you know, keep the family going and all that sort of thing. So I've got Dad's will. It should be processed next year, and I'm hoping to buy some PGM2 stuff in his memory, because he always loved all the technical stuff that I did. So I thought that was fitting to use some of his money for that. Which I think's, you know, very important to use it for the right reasons and the right stuff. So that's what I'm planning to do. So at the moment I've only got this guy here. This is COV 3. So the main 3 that I would start with, well, which I will start with, is Oriental Legends 2, COV 3, which is this one, and then there's COV 2 as well. So yeah, Knights of Valor. Sorry, I should call it Knights of Valor, not COV, because not every reader knows that shortening. So it is Knights of Valor, sorry for people. Yeah, so this is a PGM2, guys. It's not too much bigger than a PGM1. The difference is there's no real cart slot, basically, on it. It's just got connectors instead. So this is a COV 3 cartridge on the motherboard. Most PGMs are sold, PGM2s, sorry, are sold as a cartridge and a motherboard together, not just like a motherboard by itself or a cartridge by itself. The big reason for that was how they were sold originally, is that a motherboard was always sold with a cartridge. So this is the unit here, guys. You've got, obviously, that's the bottom, it's got the feet. You can just loosen these screws and pop the feet out, so you've got that, so that's all good. Now, I'll just open it up just so you can see the difference between the cart and the motherboard. So obviously you got your JAMA finger here, which is obviously the same. You just pop this out the back, like that. Then the cartridge comes off. And then you've got just the motherboard. So you can see here you've just got, I think these are DIN connectors. They're a standard. I think it's one of the DIN connectors. I don't remember the exact part number, but I'm pretty sure that's one of the DIN connectors on them. So that's fairly standard. So there you go. So that's just the motherboard by itself. There's not a lot in it. I do have pictures of the PGM2 innards on my website in the PGM2 section. But obviously, as I collect more games, I'll be taking these apart and scanning them, etc, etc. So there'll be more to do once I start collecting them all. Alright, so put the cartridge back in. Just make sure it's all loaded up and just squish it back in. So it's not too hard to go back in. Just takes a little bit of force. There we go. She's all back in again. So yeah, so obviously you got your JAMA connector at the front. We all know what that does, so that's all cool. This side, so you've got your div switch settings, the reset switch, and the volume wheel. I'm hoping not to see too many of these broken. I don't know if this is the same wheel as a PGM1. I can't remember. Obviously I've got pictures of it because they're on the website, but I think it's different. But I may have to try and source some of those, because sometimes you can get crackly audio, and that's because the wheel is a bit worn, or just basically, you know, it's had its time. So that's something that I've got to look into. There's quite a few projects for the PGM2 that I want to do and that I'm going to start or am actually working on now. But they're going to go in a different video because I wanted this video to just be really an introduction to what the PGM2 is so that people can see it and go, okay, now I understand what you're talking about. So that's this side. Jam my finger again, around to this side. So this side here, you've got your PGM2s support what's called a card reader, which I'll go into in a second. So this port here, this is for player 1 and 2's card reader. So it just plugs straight in, just clip it in, put it in. This slot here, this is for the 3rd and 4th player inputs, plus a card reader for the 3rd and 4th player as well. So that's why this one's got more pins than this guy, because this has got the player 3 and 4 and the card reader. Now, as far as I know, I've not seen these two pinouts on the web, so that's another thing I'm going to have to do is to get the pinouts, especially for the 3rd and 4th player, because I've not seen that. The card readers, they come with cables, so they just plug in, so don't really have to do a pinout for that, but that's something that, you know, I've got to look into. And on the back is fairly boring. There's nothing here. This is just where you put your hand in there and pull that up, pull the cartridge up to get it open. And then you've got on the bottom, you've got the feet that swing out. Just loosen the screws and they flick out. Then you can just bolt it down. So that's the motherboard and cartridge, guys. So the card reader. So this is this little guy here. This is a card reader. So it's just got another IDC pin there, so that's the cable that plugs into the actual unit down here, and this is the reader. And they recommend to drill a hole and then just flush mount it, but I think most people will probably just, if they're going to have it in a cabinet, they'll just have this in the cabinet with a smart card in it. So basically these card readers, what they do is they use smart cards. Now most smart cards, one of the biggest usages of smart cards like this is for mobile phones, for your SIM cards. That's a version of the smart card. Obviously, with phones these days now, they're not the full size. They're the little cutouts that you can get, which I don't currently have. Let me see if I've got one here. I think I've got one here that I can show. No. Okay, well, you guys know what I mean. It's the little card, little chip card that goes into your mobile phone that all GSM mobile phones have. So this is a smart card, and then basically what you do is you put the smart card in, which, boy, that's a bit tight there. I wonder if that's, oh, okay, that's weird. That side's just a little bit tight. I wonder if that's, the screws are a bit loose or something. Yeah, so basically what happens is the card goes in, and then it stores stuff like weapons upgrades, character unlocks, progress. There's lots of stuff that gets saved to the cards. You don't have to have a card reader to play the game, but with COV2 you probably do because of the way the game's laid out. So if you're going to use COV3, I mean not COV2, I'd get a card reader and get some cards. So yeah, so that's your card reader, and that's the smart card that goes in. Obviously, this one's that's a COV2 card. It doesn't matter. I don't think it matters which cards you use, because the cards, as far as I know, are blank from the factory. So you should be able to use any card, as far as I know. But I will be obviously working through that on other projects and stuff. So that's your card reader. Now, obviously, this is the next cable. This is the 3rd and 4th player cable for the PGM2. So basically what happens is this one, one of the wires is broken. That was how it arrived here. I should be able to figure out which pin that is. So basically this plugs into the big connector on the side, and then that brings out, this is the 3rd and 4th player. Now the thing that's a little bit different between the PGM2 3rd and 4th and the PGM1 3rd and 4th is that you've got an extra connector here. This goes to the card reader for the 3rd and 4th player. So you just get the card readers the same. So all the card readers are the same. It doesn't matter. There's not like a 1 and 2 and a 3 and 4. You can just put them in on any port, and they'll still work as 3 and 4. And so that plugs in here, and then you go and put that on the cabinet, or just let it sit in the cabinet depending on what you're doing. So that allows you to have third and fourth JAMA inputs, and a third and fourth card reader. So that's that cable there, guys. So that's basically it, really, guys. That's all I really wanted to go through. That's the basic stuff to do with these guys. Yeah, they're not too different. But yeah, well worth buying. I mean, a lot of people think, oh, there's only a couple of games, you know, won't bother buying them. But they're good games. They're good. I've played a lot of them before, and they've been fine. Cov 3, probably my favourites. Probably Cov 3 and Oriental Legends 2. So for me, depending on whether you're an Oriental Legends fan or a King of Fighters fan, King of Fighters, Knights of Valor fan, then that chooses which one you get. So yeah, so that's it, guys. That's the introduction to the PGM2.